The demographic transition is really a cross-disciplinary look at how population changes in a society or a country over time. But in a lot of ways, like so many things, as geographers, we kind of own this because we study demography. Demography generally is housed within some version of a geography department in higher education. And if you study population geography, you do find yourself in a position where you begin to understand statistics and then can apply those statistics and make analyses and kind of begin to understand what's happening based on looking at the numbers. So let's take a look at what it is. This is the process of change in a society's population from high crude birth rates and high crude death rates and a low natural increase rate to low crude birth rates and low crude death rates and a low natural increase rate, but an overall larger population. So you're going to start at one place with a certain number of people, you're going to end at another place, and the population is going to be larger. There's going to be more people. It's not that people are bigger or larger, but numerically larger. Every country is at some stage of the demographic transition. And there are 4 stages, each with its own characteristics, although there's kind of a secret 5th stage that I'll mention. Let's take a look. So this is a graph. That's all that is. And if you look along the top, you can see that there are 4 stages there. Here's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Okay? And then you can look and you can see that the blue with the arrow pointing at it indicates crude death rates. The red with the red arrow pointing at it indicates crude birth rates. And then the brown with the brown arrow pointing at it, the logic is frightening even to me, is natural increase rates. Okay? Now if you look on the left-hand side, I've circled in purple the crude birth and crude death rates per thousand, which is what they are, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40 births or deaths per thousand people in the society. And then on the right-hand side, you can see natural increase rate, which I've circled in green. And you can see 1%, 2%, 3%, okay? All right. Stage 1. Stage 1 is characterized by having high crude birth rates and high crude death rates. So a lot of people are being born, but a lot of people are dying. And because of that, low overall natural increase rates, which means the population is not really growing much. Because these things are counteracting each other. There may be times when more people are being born than dying, but then something happens and lots of people die. If you take a look, I circled the crude birth rates and the crude death rates in purple, and then the low growth natural increase rate in green. Okay, take a look there. So you can see the way they're kind of squiggling all over the place, which also does not indicate stability in the society. It indicates a kind of unstable situation, at least with regards to population growth. Population is relatively low and stable. I didn't say population is unstable. The population is stable. Economically, things might not be completely stable. Most of human history was spent like this in stage 1. Gains in one area would be offset by gains in another, with only occasional swings in growth. And no country is in stage 1 today. Now, there might be areas in a country that are experiencing stage 1 kind of characteristics, but no country is in stage 1 today. With stage 2, we enter a stage where there's high crude birth rates, but decreasing crude death rates. This results in rapidly increasing natural increase rates because there's more people who are being born than are dying, because the deaths are beginning to tail off. And because of this, population begins to grow quickly. You can see, I just pointed this out with the arrows. You can see crude death rate is coming down, crude birth rate is remaining high, and natural increase rate is going up rapidly. What causes this? Well, better food supplies and technology, but unchanged attitudes about family size. The US and Europe went through stage 2 in the 18th and 19th centuries. The rest of the world entered into stage 2 in the 20th century. In stage 3, crude birth rate drops, so it begins to come down. Crude death rate continues to decline, and natural increase rate slows and decreases, but population continues to grow. just at a slower rate. What causes this? Well, take a look. You can see what I'm pointing out there. You can see crude birth rate is indeed coming down. Crude death rate is coming down and sort of flattening out, and natural increase rate is going down. However, I want you to keep this in mind. If you look at these stages, if you're at stage 1 and there are 100 people in the society, and you enter into stage 2 and natural increase rate begins to increase rapidly, what ends up happening is you go from having 100 people in the society to, let's say, 200 people in the society, so you double. And then in stage 3, although the rate is less, you are still increasing the number of people, maybe not as rapidly. So you go from 200 to 250. And then by stage 4, the rate of increase goes way down. Maybe you end up with 275 people. But at the end, you're going to end up with more people. It's a little bit like this. If you had a bucket and you started pouring 12 ounces of water in per second into the bucket, and then you decrease the amount you're pouring in to 6 ounces per second, the amount of water in the bucket is going to continue to increase just at a slower rate. That's kind of what's happening here. What causes this? Well, this results from changing attitudes about family size, better medical care, economic choices, increasing urbanization. The US and Europe in the 20th century entered into stage 3. Some Latin American and Asian countries are there today. Then stage 4, crude birth rate and crude death rate are both about the same, just like in stage 1, but much lower than they were in stage 1. Natural increase rate is very low, maybe even negative in some cases. I'll say more about that in a minute. And many countries enter into what's called ZPG, or zero population growth, which means exactly what it sounds like it means, which is there's no growth in the population. The same number of people being born or the number of people dying, they equal out. Population grew during stages 2 and 3, but as I mentioned, it's going to be at its overall highest in stage 4 because of what happened during stage 2 and stage 3. You can hear the sirens around me. So if you take a look, you can see the blue, the red, and the brown arrows pointing that out. What causes this? Well, this results from universal health care, access to birth control, women in the workforce, greater economic equality and opportunity, and social and economic stability. Remember, almost 3 dozen countries have negative natural increase rates, mostly in Europe plus Japan, which is also the center of the zero population growth countries in the world, Europe and Japan. What are the consequences of this? Well, some versions of the demographic transition show a stage 5 as the negative population growth stage. Whether it happens towards the end of stage 4, whether this is stage 5, is not that important. I just want you to understand what I just told you, which is those 4 stages, and then be thinking about a stage 5. As populations are able to age into retirement years, so in other words, as people are able to live longer because of those things I just pointed out to you, the larger the number of retirees and the longer they live, the greater the pressure on the people currently in the workforce because they have to be supported. Fewer people in the workforce, in the workplace, will have greater burdens to support those retirees. You know, if you live into your 90s and you retire at 65, that's a long time that you're going to be collecting, for example, Social Security or retirement benefits and dealing with the healthcare system. Substantial populations of elderly people can actually stress the society financially. And I'm not advocating against elderly people. I want us all to live to be very old. However, you have to look at this kind of dispassionately. Population collapse is not healthy, nor is it sustainable. Okay, we don't want to have overpopulation, but we can't have population collapse either. But, as I pointed out to you before, near the end of this century, we're likely to be facing these types of issues throughout the world.